Welcome to the Freelance Tribe. Here we talk with skilled freelancers about their professional journey. Stay tuned for real-life experiences to learn and actionable steps to take to improve your freelancing career. My name is Yuri. I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works. And my guest is Rachel Rozen, a networking coach, professional speaker, workshop facilitator, and founder of Connection Catalyst, on a mission to help professionals build authentic connections and turn networking challenges into lasting relationships. And today we'll discuss how freelancers can start new professional relationships and maintain old to ensure they have a constant stream of clients. So welcome, Rachel.
Thanks so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
First of all, shout out to Bailey for connecting us.
Yes.
And let's make her proud. Let's have an amazing, fun, and awesome conversation. And I can't wait to learn from you about the networking. And you are turning icky networking into sticky relationships. So would you mind sharing your personal journey from struggling to build connections to becoming the connections expert?
Yeah. So for myself, I had been working for over 20 years in the hospitality industry. I worked in hotels and restaurants, and then I went to the tech side of things and worked my way up to be a chief customer officer. When I got all the way to the top, I realized I didn't really want to keep doing that. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. So when I left that role, I knew that I needed to network to find my next opportunity, but I didn't really want to be in hospitality anymore. I didn't want to be customer facing. I was really good at it, but it was really draining for me.
Mm.
And I was trying to find new ways that I could use my skill set to find a job. And I realized that my network was very small. It wasn't very wide and it wasn't very deep. And it was really just the colleagues that I've worked with in my past and my clients that I had had during that time. But I didn't really keep up with everyone as much as I probably should have because I was a workaholic and I just
Mm.
focused on my day to day and what I needed to get done, but not really on building a network per se. And so when I started looking for my next opportunity, that's when I realized that I had to actually go and network. And this was
Mm.
during COVID or towards the end of ish COVID. And people were very much inside. Nobody was going to events and it was still kind of a struggle to go out there. I ended up meeting 300 people in one-on-one conversations. And it all started from 5 people because I thought that I wanted to be a chief of staff, but I
Mm.
wasn't sure what that was going to look like or where. I wanted to see leadership from a different vantage point and then maybe become a COO because it was very operational focused. And I reached out to 5 different people that were chiefs of staff and they got me to 40 people total because I kept getting introductions. And then I was going to different communities specifically that were looking for people that were looking for jobs. So one of them was Chief, which is for executive women. And I was going to the career transition meeting every week. And I was talking about how I was networking, and then more people, they were connecting me with more people of who I should talk to, and or they wanted to talk to me. I was getting consulting jobs in between while I was looking for my next opportunity and realized I didn't actually want to be a chief of staff, but it was a good start to get myself going. And in the end, it brought me to be doing this because I was really figured out that networking is a skill set. And most people don't talk about it in that way. They're just told to go and network. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, what your background is. Everyone's like, oh, you got to network. You have to network. But what does that truly mean? And the word itself is just gut punching. And people are like, oh, I have to do this. Why do I have to go? I mean, whether they're extrovert or introvert, it doesn't even matter. It's like, I have to keep doing this over and over again. And why am I doing it? And it feels so transactional and I'm not getting anything out of it. And so I realized that I was really gaining relationships that I never had before, meeting people that I would have never met before. And not only were they helping me, but I was helping them in different
Mm.
ways as well. And that got me on the path to start doing this because I really wanted to bring the skills that I realized that you needed for networking to others and help them, like you said, take the icky out of networking and help them build those lasting relationships because we need it not just for work, but this is a skill that we need for our lifetime. And people don't realize it at how important it is, but that you can also meet people anywhere. It's not just from a work perspective, but people in your personal life can help you in work as well.
What are the skills that people need for networking?
I think the biggest thing is conversational skills is number one. Another thing is emotional intelligence is huge to really understand people. Executive presence is really key, regardless if you're an executive or not. It's really how you carry yourself and being your most genuine, authentic self. Those are three big skills that I think that are very important. Another one is mindset because we really struggle in general with being our best selves because often we have so many things going on outside of work or outside of our day to day. And how do we get ourselves in the right place mentally, physically to then be able to have those conversations with people so that you come off genuine, authentic? You don't want to come off excessive or overly trying to overly impress somebody because people see right through that. They know when you're not being your true self. Even if they've never met you before, you can tell.
How can people understand if they are good at networking?
I think the biggest thing is there isn't necessarily like good or bad. It's really how you build those relationships over time. And one of the things that people really struggle with is the follow-up. I think that is really the key to being a good networker or good at building connections. I prefer that word over networking. Is are you following up post a conversation? And where people struggle is you often hear you need to follow up within 24 to 48 hours. And I'm a huge proponent for that as well. But you know what? Life gets in the way. And sometimes you can't do that. So it doesn't matter how long the time is that you connected with someone, still follow up with them.
Hmm.
Still reconnect with them. When we stop reconnecting, that's when we become not great at networking because we're losing the opportunity to continue to build those relationships. That's when it just starts to feel transactional. And not every person you're going to meet are you going to follow up with consistently, but there has to be a good amount of people that you're connecting with that you want to keep that relationship with.
We'll come back to follow up a little later, but still, from what I have a lot of conversation with freelancers, and they feel really awkward or icky about networking. So, how can they overcome this anxiety and make the networking feel more not transactional, but more natural and genuine?
Yeah, I think the first thing that people need to be thinking about is a mindset that I actually learned from a dating coach. And it's called NATO and not the Global Alliance NATO, but NATO meaning not attached to outcome. And the reason why is that we always feel like we need to get something from somebody or we need to give something to somebody. But that doesn't always need to be the case. If we go in a little bit more relaxed into the conversation, that can be very helpful. I just want to meet someone. I want to be curious about the other person because when we're networking or when we're building relationships and connections in general, it's about getting to know the other person. It's not so much about us. If we get to know the other person, things will eventually come our way. And the one thing with networking is it's truly the long game. It's not the short game. You're not automatically going to meet your best friend or have a business partner or get a client from the first conversation you have with somebody. But the more you build relationships, the more people are going to remember you and think about you and help you down the road because they don't always know where they can help you in the moment.
Are there right or wrong people who you can connect with? I mean, like, for example, if you're a freelancer, you can connect just, I don't know, go on the street and just go and connect with every person you see. But there is no guarantee that it will lead you to some kind of professional result. Maybe it will. You never know. Maybe your clients will just go down the street and you will meet them. But is there a way to identify and connect, let's say, with the right people, those who might lead you to some work referrals, even while having this not attached to outcome approach?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things to think about from a strategy perspective. One is who is your ideal client? And where do those ideal clients participate in activities? Where
Hmm.
do they what spaces are they in? I like to use, if you're familiar with the musical Hamilton, one line, I don't remember exactly what the song is, but it's be in the room where it happens. And so if you're in the room where it happens, you're more likely to meet the right people. So where are those people hanging out? What events are they going to? That's a great way from a strategy perspective to be around them. And that could be virtual or in person. So for example, on LinkedIn, let's just say that you are a graphic designer. Um, you can search on LinkedIn graphic design or maybe something more specific that may not be the best example. But if you search that, it'll, whatever industry you're looking for, it'll pull up an opportunity for you. It says people, posts, companies, and then there's one that says events. And if you click on the events tab, you can
Hmm.
see all the events that are happening
Yeah.
related to that specific, and you can get as specific as you want, but if those keywords are in that event description, it'll pull up. So that's a great way to find events that are virtual, but then in your own places where you live, using different event tools to find them. I believe Eventbrite is global, but something like Eventbrite is a good place to look as well for in-person events.
I feel like meetup.com also
Meetup
good
as
way.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's imagine we found a good event. We know where to talk. And something that I noticed in-person events that there are few types of people. Some people are going like from one to another and like pollinating, like talking to different people and laughing with everyone. It looks like they're the center of attention of the whole room. And some people are staying like watching on their phones, but you can see that they're not doing anything. They're just kind of hiding behind their phones. And then those people like, yeah, it was a shitty event. I didn't meet anyone. I didn't do anything. So yeah, I will never go there. So I'm curious, how can introverted freelancers, someone who are not that really outgoing person, how can they connect, how they build this network and relationships without really feeling drained or overwhelmed?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first thing to think about is what is your energy going into the event? And how are you getting your energy up for the event? And a lot of people, especially introverts, they go in with very low energy, but they end up leaving with very high energy when they connect with people. So, to get your energy up, I often talk about a tactical approach around your senses. So, for example, from a hearing standpoint, is there a playlist that you can listen to before you go into the event that's going to just pump you up? You're like, oh my God, I feel so great. I just listened to my favorite music and now I'm like raring to go. And that can be from hearing. From a visual standpoint, is there a photo on your phone or your background photo, your lock screen photo that you can look at that's automatically going to put a smile on your face? I'm doing this for my kids. I'm doing this for my dog. I'm doing this because I want to go on my next vacation. What is it that's going to make you smile? Another thing to think about is touch. So, is there something that you can have in your pocket that you can touch that's going to bring you
Mm.
back to present? So, it could be something that's tactile that is soft or smooth or hard, whatever it might be. Another thing is taste. So, from a taste perspective, can you have a hard candy? Can you have a Listerine strip? Is there something that, not gum, but is there something that you can put in your mouth, again, that's just going to bring you back to present? That's going to, and all those things can help you. And then the last one is smell. Is there
Mm.
something, a scent that you can wear that ideally I tell men and women put it on your wrist so that when you're waving your hands by your face, you can smell it versus you don't want to be doused in cologne or perfume. It just should be a light thing. But a lot of those can help you come back to present or be in the moment. And then that's number one is, how are you approaching the day and what does that look like? The second thing is have goals for yourself. What
Mm.
are your goals going into this event? I want to meet one person. I want to meet three people. You don't have to meet 20, but just give yourself some goals of what that's going to look like. And if it's pre-event, you can look up who's attending if the attendee list is there and I want to meet these three people. So you try to find those three people. If you don't know who's attending, you can also play a game with yourself and you can say, I'm going to talk to anybody that's wearing cowboy boots. And if they're wearing cowboy boots, then I'm going to talk to them. Or maybe you say, I'm going to only talk to people that are wearing green shirts. You pick something out and you make a game for yourself, whatever that looks like, because people like playing games and that can be really helpful. And I like to call that like, Where's Waldo? I don't know if he was a global sensation, but
Yeah.
uh, it's a great way to just kind of meet people. The third thing that you can do is have a buddy go with you. That can
Mm,
always be helpful. And the last tip that I'll give is be the first person in the room versus the last. A lot of people think that they need to go to an event and be late or show up when other people are there. But really, you want to be the first person in the room or one of the first, because what happens is people will come and talk to you
mm.
versus you having to go talk to people. And once you start getting that muscle working, then it becomes a little bit easier because people will still be talking to you. And then you don't have to worry about who is that next person I need to talk to. So those are 4 tips. I know it was a lot, but I think it's helpful for introverts to just have different variety on how they can go about. And it works for others too. Even if you're not introverted, anybody can use those tips.
And for someone who's just starting, I once again, I hear some stories when someone was working on a long-term project for like 2, 3 years, and they totally fully was in this project and didn't network with anyone. So basically, the project ends, they had to start build network, but they don't know where to start. So what is the smallest step to start building your professional network for someone who is starting it, doing it from scratch?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for anyone that's starting from scratch, and even in general, I always say go back to people that you already know and tell them what you're doing now so that they know what that is and they may be able to introduce you to people. That's how I got to the 300 in that 1 year, is because I started with 5 people and they just kept introducing me to more and more people. It's much easier when people who know you, like you, trust you can then introduce you to others versus you trying to reach out cold to people to get started, because that's where it can feel really icky and it takes time to get to that point. So I don't really recommend that for anyone that's just starting out.
Mm,
And you're building this over time. So just keep in mind that this isn't necessarily going to be today I'm going to meet someone and tomorrow I'm going to have a job. You just have to start building those connections. And I also like to say that you never know who somebody knows. So as long as you're clear with the work that you do and who are the type of clients you're looking for, the easier it's going to be for someone to make an introduction to you. Doesn't mean that they're going to have a job today, but you just never know who they're going to know that might have an opportunity for you as well.
and how to encourage others to introduce you to someone else.
Yeah, so when you're having a conversation with someone, a lot of times people will say, well, how can I best help you? Or how can I best
Mm,
support you? And I highly recommend using that on both sides. So if you're not saying that already in a conversation, please do. And you ask, like, if someone's saying that, then they truly mean it. You ask them, I'm really looking to meet people who, and tell them what it is that you're looking for. Or maybe there's someone specific that you want to know, or a specific company that you'd like to meet people at, or someone that holds a specific title. Tell them exactly what you're looking for. The more specific you are, the easier it is for someone to make that introduction. If you just tell people that I'm looking for anyone that works at a Fortune 500 company, well, that's pretty broad.
yeah.
You want to be as specific as you possibly can.
And also freelancers usually are, when building network, they focusing on new connections, on new introductions, on someone new and shiny. But they're forgetting about someone they already know, someone they already invested in relationships with, and someone they hopefully had great conversation with. But what are some tips for maintaining and improving those relationships with past clients or contacts? How can freelancers stay on the radar of old connections?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple things that you can do is the reconnection. So, one thing that you can do is just reach out to somebody and say, hey, I've been thinking about you. How are you? Just to reconnect. Another one could be a gratitude message. I really enjoyed working with you and I really appreciate it. And just say whatever you're grateful for. Another one could be an admiration. I really enjoyed working with you and I admired how you, whatever it might be. Those are three things that you can say to someone. What helps it go the next level are two things. You can send a text or an email, sure. You can send a voice note, but to go even further, you can send a video message. And
Hmm.
if you send that video message, people are really excited to see your face and the expression on your face on why you feel that way. Because we've kind of gotten to the point in society in general, when we just send text messages, we have to kind of pretend we know how they're feeling or what they're going to say. But if you truly want to connect with someone and keep building upon that, sending that video note, that video message, or that voice note is really a great way to go a step further in building those connections. And especially if you just say, hey, I've been thinking about you, and give an example too. Maybe there's
Hmm.
something that you thought about them during the time that you worked together and you wanted to mention that. They're like, oh my God, I totally remember when we did that. That's so much fun. Thank you for thinking about me. You never know what anybody else is going on. And it's not that they aren't going to connect with you or they didn't want to connect with you. It's they're busy too. Life happens. People move, they get new jobs, they get married, they have kids. Lots of things happen in life. So take that first step and do that reconnection because you just never know what's going to come of that.
And I feel like the video message is like the hardest part because, when you are typing the message, you can delete something, you can start from scratch, you can, as a worst case, ask ChatGPT to do something for you.
Right.
Hopefully, don't do that. But but when you're doing video, you can't fake it. You are who you are, and even if you are doing mistakes, you are still coming as a human. So I feel like even though it's the hardest part, it might be the best part, I guess.
Yeah. People get really surprised when you send them a video message. They're like, oh my God, you're sending me a video message? It's a little bit harder today. You can't necessarily, I mean, I'm sure in a couple of years we'll be able to caption video messages like we do on, Reels and TikTok and stuff like that, because sometimes people can't watch the video wherever they are. They can only, see the captions. But when they actually get to see it, nobody cares what you look like, first of all. That's like the number one kickback I get from people. Is like, I'm not sending a video message. I'm not camera ready. Nobody cares. Only you know what you look like. Nobody else cares what you look like. Doesn't matter if you make a mistake when you're talking. You make mistakes when you're talking in general in conversation anyway.
Yeah.
So it happens on video, it's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be done. That's all. And people get really excited to hear from you.
I'm a big believer of small steps and habits. So I'm curious, what is one daily or weekly networking habit that freelancer must adapt to grow their network consistently?
I think a big thing is actually having conversations. So, what are you doing in your week, in your day? Are you spending time to actually network? So, I like to have people look at like 1 week at a time because it's hard to do it on a daily. But 1 week, are you going to any events? You don't have to go to events every single week, but are you going to any events? Do you have any one-on-one conversations that you're doing? What is your activity on LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn is a great place to be. If that's not the social media tool that you use, is
Hmm.
it Instagram? Is it TikTok? How are you engaging in an audience? But doing any of those things are extremely helpful. But one of the biggest things that you can do daily is your follow-ups. So if you've done those activities, making sure that you have time to do the follow-ups because that's going to build on your connections over time. So whether it's the follow-ups within that week, or maybe you want to reconnect with someone that you haven't talked to in a while, but those follow-ups really help make networking a habit.
What if you are sending a follow-up and there are crickets? Nobody's answer you for like days. What should you do?
I mean, that happens. Again, people's lives are busy. Depending upon what the need is, you can always send one within, I like to say, 3 to 5 business days if you don't hear from someone, if it's something that's urgent. If not, you can also wait a couple weeks and then send it again. Just check. I haven't heard from you. Just checking on you. Want to make sure everything's okay. Things get buried in people's inboxes too. I think on average, people get like 100 emails a day. So it's not that they don't want to talk to you. It's not that they forgot you. It's just buried deep in that pile of emails that they need to get through.
I'm sometimes answering people 2 months later. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I missed your email or I missed your message. And it's so easy to miss a message on LinkedIn because, like I always prefer to, if I read some message and I think that I have to give a thoughtful answer, I'll mark it unread,
Yes.
and then it goes down. And then it's like 2 months later, oh my God, there is unread message. What should I do? But I feel like people are also okay with that. If definitely it's not something like super urgent, but maybe you can call if it's like very urgent if you are talking to a client. So yeah, I feel like follow-ups is something that people are forgetting about, but it's also a very powerful tool. So thank you very much for bringing it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say just on the LinkedIn DMs too is check them. You never know what's in there, especially for freelancers, because you could have golden nuggets that are potential clients that message you and you're missing it because you're not checking your LinkedIn DMs or your connection requests. So that should be something that you do daily. Like check your DMs, check those connection requests because you just never know what's in there. And you could have the most amazing client that's reaching out, but you're
Yeah.
missing it because you're not checking it.
Rachel, I wish to have the sky's the limit, but time is the limit. So the final question: what is your favorite food?
Ooh, my favorite food. So many things. So my favorite food growing up was potato kugel, which
Hmm.
is a Jewish dish, Eastern European dish, which is like a giant potato pancake. Today, I mean, I still love potato kugel, but I would say I also really love sushi. Like I could eat sushi all the time.
And what is the best way to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is via LinkedIn. I'm just put a lot of content out on there, and that's where I spend most of my time talking to people.
Got it, Rachel. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, and it's such a pleasure to hear and learn from you.
My pleasure. Thanks, Yuri. I appreciate being on here today.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button 5 stars and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.